Hello everyone, you're welcome to Elevate with Miranda. On this channel, we discuss everything personal development, entrepreneurship, and technology. And today, we are starting a very special series where we'll be inviting successful entrepreneurs from different parts of Africa. They'll be sharing with us what it takes to start a business in Africa or specifically in their country. And for today, we are doing Kenya. But before we start, do you know that Kenya has one of the most successful and promising ecosystem in technology in the whole of Africa? And as a matter of fact, in 2023, it was recorded that Kenya's funding was worth more than 800 million US dollars, the largest in the whole of Africa. So you won't want to miss this episode for any reason. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Elevate with Miranda. As I said earlier, today we are all about doing business in Kenya. Yeah, I'm so interested in Kenya. I'm so excited about Kenya. And I have with me today a very special guest. He's a second-time founder, a successful tech entrepreneur. He's a front-end developer. I know he does some back-end. He's a very good digital marketer. In fact, Shadrack Apollo is just a world of, I don't know, he has so many skills. He's so gifted. Talk about business. He's an expert in it. Shad, you're very much welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to come onto your platform, and I hope I'll have enough to share with your audience. I've been following the show for a while. I really love the insights you give, especially for entrepreneurs in our space. This is a much needed show, and it's a pleasure to be here. So just hit me with all the Kenya questions.
Oh, it says actually hit him with all the Kenya questions. Thank you so much, Shad. I'm so honored. Before we get started, I know our viewers are excited about you, about Kenya. So before we get into the deep dives, so just tell us a bit about Shad. What are you up to? I'm seeing you're wearing a Tuma t-shirt.
Yes.
What is Tuma all about? So just tell us what you're doing at the moment.
Thank you, Miranda. So at the moment, we're here in West Africa, and Tuma is the name of the company we've started with my fellow cohort members.
Okay.
And currently we are in the digital space. We are working with excellent content creators like yourself to help them solve the issue of monetization, because as you know, Africa has the youngest population, and a lot of them are just getting connected to the internet. A lot of them have access to smartphones. So our whole approach is a lot of them will have opportunities in content creation, and we're just trying to make it easier for them to monetize and create a life for themselves doing what they love.
That is great. Maybe I'll keep the link to your website at the end of the show. People can check it out and see what you're up to, right? So, but now, was there any drive? You're starting a tech business for the second time. That means there should be something that is driving you into tech entrepreneurship, into starting up businesses. So what is that thing that push into tech entrepreneurship, into starting a business?
To be honest, the drive to become an entrepreneur, when you're in Africa, it's not very clear if it's the poverty that's driving you, or like trying to, but ultimately for me, I do believe it comes from the need to make a change on our continent. Like we are behind the rest of the world in a lot of the aspects, but I feel like in technology, we do have an equal chance to play on the global stage and actually create products that enhance people's lives and makes people's lives better. And that is the reason that I'm willing to do this thing over and over again, even if it takes 10 tries to make a change happen. I'm willing to do that.
Okay. So your first startup, is it still live?
No, unfortunately, as is the nature of most startups, it failed. And maybe we can go into that at some other time. But it was a very interesting experience, because after 2 years of running the startup, we had financial challenges. We were unable to raise as much funds as we needed to do our operation. As you may know, the startup was called Lipana. It was in the payments and fintech space, which is very vibrant in Kenya, I may add. And so after 2 years battling regulation, battling operation costs, we had to terminate the startup. And at that, it is at that juncture that I decided to come to West Africa and learn maybe how to do this much more efficiently and give it another chance.
Oh, okay, so you believe you've learned a lot of valuable lessons. Well, I would have loved you to share some of the things which, if you are given an opportunity, you do it differently.
Yes.
But maybe we'll do, if we still have time, we can handle that at the end of the session, right?
Yeah.
So, but now let's go into our topic proper about Kenya.
Yes.
So I understand that Kenya has one of the biggest tech ecosystem in the whole of Africa. So maybe can you just tell us what are the advantages? How is it different from different parts of Africa in doing business in Kenya?
Great. I'm glad you've asked that question. So the first thing that makes Kenya an excellent spot to start a startup is there's a very high computer literacy in the population. A big chunk of the youth already know how to operate the computer. They are familiar with the internet. Internet penetration is very high. Our government is making very intentional moves towards connecting the entire country to fiber optic. So there's over 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables laid down all over the country. And this creates an environment where a lot of people can easily come online and be able to experiment with their ideas and whatever they want to create. So that's probably the number one reason to come to Kenya. But beyond that, the business environment in Kenya is very good because I'm sorry to say this, but in West Africa, the tech adoption is slightly slower than I've seen in the East. So in case you have tech ideas that are very wild and very experimental, as is the nature of many startups, Kenya is a perfect ground. Kenyans are willing to try out your idea and application, as young as it may be, as crazy as it may be. They're just willing to try out to see if it's better than whatever their current solution is.
And from the few Kenyans I've interacted with, I realize they are always willing to spend. They don't care, like they don't hold back. Some in different parts of Africa, I'll not mention names. I know some of them, they are so careful about spending. Like every dollar they have counts a lot. They don't want to spend it. But I know Kenyans, they are so fast in spending, right? And that is a good thing for someone wanting to start a business in Kenya. So what do you think about foreigners in Kenya? Is the government or the ecosystem, are they open to foreigners starting
yes,
Kenya?
Yes. Kenya is very open to foreigners on two levels. On a continental level, Kenya is very Pan-African. As you may know, coming to Kenya is visa-free. The government recently lifted that off. So
for all Africans or
for every single human on earth. So that doesn't matter whatever country you're from. You can just land in Kenya and you come right away. So the whole reasoning is Kenya is a cradle of mankind. The first man was found there. So they're like
the first what?
The first man was found in Turkana, the Egyptithecus, something like that. You remember those history things? Yes. So the first one was in Kenya. So the government is like, Kenya is the home of every other person. So it doesn't make sense to demand a visa to come home. So that's one. So on the Pan-African level, Kenya is very collaborative with people from other countries. So even especially East African, West African, South, we embrace people from all regions. But more importantly, on the global front, Kenya is very open to investors and founders and entrepreneurs from all over the world. The government is actively trying to create an environment where it can enable entrepreneurs to come in and set up business with as little friction as possible, and basically be able to do business in Kenya as quickly and as easily as you can.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, talking about still foreigners, so what does it take to, you spoke about visa free, but is it even for business? What are the requirements if foreigners will have to go through to establish a business in Kenya?
Well, just like most countries, you have to register the business first, but the registration process is not very complicated. We do have an online government portal called e-Citizen, whereby you can just sign up as a foreigner and register your company. But they do have a requirement, and this is important, that you have a Kenyan on your board who owns at least, I'll have to confirm this, but the last time I checked was about 25% ownership, and you can have the rest of the 75% as foreigners. So that would be the main requirement. So if you're coming to Kenya, a smart move I'd advise is maybe find a Kenyan and partner with them. It will make your way a lot easier when trying to move around. Yes.
Oh, okay, that is nice. Now, looking ahead.
Yes.
How do you see the Kenya's tech ecosystem? Do you see it to be more promising, or are there any threats?
Looking ahead, I do see a lot of growth in the Kenyan tech ecosystem. Just like I'd mentioned, a lot of the initiatives that the government is doing, they just started in the last 2 or 3 years. So a big chunk of the fruits that we expect those initiatives to bear might be seen in the coming years, maybe in the next year, next 2 years. So in the short-term future, I do see the ecosystem for Kenya becoming even more vibrant for startups in terms of internet penetration. Starlink recently launched in Kenya, meaning right now you can start an internet company from anywhere in Kenya. The internet access will not be a problem. And in terms of other requirements needed to start a business, I don't think, apart from the registration bit, from the regulation standpoint, unless you're going into a heavily regulated industry like fintech, or let's say in the medical sector, most of the industries are open. And even some of the new industries, AI and crypto and blockchain, most of the government hasn't really gotten around to putting tight regulations around these sectors. So if you are an entrepreneur looking to explore these new technologies, Kenya is a very prime ground to consider.
Okay, that is good. And now, knowing that Kenya's ecosystem is really big in tech, so now I want to, how easy it is for a startup in Kenya to compete with global players, maybe the United States, other from different countries. How complicated or how easy is that?
I'm glad you asked that question. We do actually have a few startups in Kenya that have gone to Y Combinator and by our standards, global companies. We also have a few portfolio companies even from MEST that are from Kenya. I remember famously Grow Intelligence was a portfolio company. We also have a few other startups that in Kenya that do compete on the global scale. But on the startup perspective, most of our startups, I'd like to say, are concentrated in Africa and serving the African territory. And in that regard, there's more than a handful, more than a dozen even, that have managed to take over the entire continent. I could easily mention Cellulant, I could mention Twiga, I could mention Sandy, I could mention M-Pesa, although some may argue that that's not entirely a startup at this point. But there's several startups that are playing on the global scale.
Oh, thank you so much, Shad. You shared a lot of insight. Everything, like all the questions in my mind, he has already answered them. And I'm so grateful. If you are liking this video so far, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the channel. I have one last question for you, Shadrack, before you go. If you maybe you have the opportunity to redo or undo something, maybe in your tech entrepreneurship journey, what will you do differently?
Thank you for that question, Miranda. That's quite interesting. Just off the top of my head, I think the thing I'd do most differently would be how I choose my co-founders. I'd be very deliberate and particular about choosing co-founders who can match my energy, integrity, and of course, maybe my approach to solving problems, because that's very important. Previously, I did choose my co-founders based on their skills, and I did not consider other qualities as to whether they're actually suited for the role. And down the line, that did end up costing me. And I've learned my lesson, expensive as it may be. So if I had to do it all over again, I'd find the right people right from the start.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So choose your co-founders rightly. Thank you very much, Shad. It has been an insightful moment with you. I've learned a lot about Kenya, and I'm so eager to start my next business in Kenya. Oh, and so if you love this video, make sure you like it. And if you haven't subscribed, what are you still waiting for? Thank you. Have a very lovely day. Bye-bye.